Age 40 tends to be the biggest drop-off point for men when it comes to fitness. Life stressors like work demands and family responsibilities pile up, personal time diminishes, you feel trapped by your schedule and often stuck in a cycle of stress and fatigue, while the effects of aging become more and more noticeable, making it hard to ignore the fitness slump you're in, since this only makes things worse. Now, when it comes to the practical stuff like how to get it done on a tight schedule, we've covered these in previous episodes. In a nutshell, creating a morning calisthenics routine and simplifying your training by focusing on a handful of exercises that deliver 80% of the results with half the time investment is the way to go. But that's just one side of the coin, since staying in shape past your 40s is just as much, if not more, of a mental game than it is a physical one.
This is why today I'll be sharing with you a method to fence off that inner resistance when you want to work out, but your mind gives you a middle finger because it's burned out and it wants to take you down the path of least resistance.
To do this, we'll be using something I call the WIN method, which consists of the following 3 steps. The first step of learning how to bypass your mind when it's trying to convince you to skip that workout or choose the donut over the omelet is welcoming every excuse, justification, and uncomfortable emotion it recruits without, though, getting sucked into it, or even worse, pushing against it, since that only makes it more stubborn. What you want to do instead is simply be aware of the show that your mind is putting on, acknowledging that it's just trying to make you feel better and to protect you in its own way, which is obviously the wrong way. Now, to get a little bit more practical here, since so far all this sounds good in theory, but how do you put it in practice? The best way to welcome these thoughts without getting swayed by them is learning to observe them like passing mental events.
Just as you go on with your day when the weather is crappy, even though you'd rather have sunshine.
By the way, if you like this kind of advice, then make sure you subscribe to our newsletter for mindset strategies on a weekly basis. There's a link in the top pin comment below. Especially if you're stressed, tired, and emotionally overwhelmed, the biggest mistake you can make when your mind is trying to steer you into the path of least resistance is thinking that you can actually reason with it. This is one of the biggest traps, since it's how your mind lures you into negotiations from which you never come out a winner. If your mind continues to try to manipulate you, even after practicing step 1, the best way to deal with it is creating space between you and it by inserting presence. To do this, you want to focus on your senses, doing things such as observing the physical space you're in, maybe paying attention to the texture of objects around you or smells. By focusing on the background, ambient, city noise, you can focus on a dog barking in the next door building, or even focus on the ringing of your ears. Different senses work better for different people, so you can experiment with this and see which combination works best for you.
The key here is remembering that you're not trying to turn your mind off. Rather, you're trying to squeeze some space between you and it in order to act more as an observer rather than thinking that you're completely inseparable from it.
The last and most important step is placing all your focus on action that moves you towards your goals, starting with changes that are small and gradual enough so you don't end up overwhelmed. In other words, you want to take small steps out of your comfort zone, but you don't want to take giant leaps. With training, for example, never force yourself to commit to a whole workout plan from the very beginning. Instead, take things one workout at a time. If you're at the very beginning of your journey, or if you're having a day that you're just struggling to get started, always focus on tiny steps like putting on your workout clothes and seeing how you feel after that. Next, you can put on some music that you like to work out to and see how you feel after that. Next, you can commit to a few warm-up drills. You can, focus on getting just a few push-up sets. By the way, that's why I love calisthenics, because they're just so easily accessible. After that, you can try some pull-push supersets, or you can even do pull-push lower body, trisets, and so forth.
In the end, remember that perfection is the enemy of good, and especially if you're just getting started, your goal should be aiming for good enough. Therefore, you're a lot better off trying to get better at things little by little, day by day, and week by week.
Of course, I'm not going to lie to you. All this requires a lot of trial and error and work in the beginning, especially during this phase of your life. You're going to kinda have to see yourself like a Zen monk, disciplined and dedicated to steadily mastering your mind. But remember that once this starts becoming rewarding, getting hooked on the process becomes easier and easier. That was all for today. If you need some extra help with getting started with your journey, someone to give you clarity when it comes to all the technical and practical stuff with nutrition, training, mindset, then feel free to reach out to me and my team. Coaching busy guys like you is what we do. There's an application below in the top comment. You can fill it in and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you have any other questions, as usual, leave them below. I always do my best to get back to every single one of you. And until next time, keep on training. Ambient city noise. Maybe you can hear a dog barking in the building next to you, or you can even